And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series.
Watson, touchdown! Hunter Renfrow.
He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers.
Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JV and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us at the all-new JB and Goldwater app. Download it. It's free, and you can also purchase a season ticket while you're in there. If you're not a season ticket holder, we hope you will be. Just put out a new piece a little while ago in the all-new mini-series Gamecock Talk for those who are season ticket holders. There you go. Something to put your eyes on today, hopefully something that you like. You can watch and listen to our program, of course, right through that app, and you can also go to jbandgoldwatershow.com daily from 12 to 2 p.m. We are live. To the right of the screen is Darren. I'm Jamie. We're here, as I just mentioned, until 2 o'clock and across all social media platforms collectively at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Radio JB and at Darren Goldwater. It is December the 15th. We are 10 days from Christmas Day. Hopefully all of you are enjoying this wonderful holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and so on and so forth to everybody out there. Quick note, for those that might not know this, Darren and I have decided we are going to take December the 23rd through January the 3rd off. We'll be back on January the 4th. But we're going to enjoy the holidays like all of you are. You're really only going to miss us for like 3 days during that
Pretty
time
much,
or something, 3 or 4 days, because we'd be off on New Year's Eve and day and Christmas Eve and day and all that type of stuff anyways. So we're going to enjoy the holidays with our family just like you are. So next Tuesday, 1 week from today, will be our last day for, I don't know, 10 or 11 days somewhere.
Our last day of the 2020 news cycle.
Yeah.
Then we get to come back in 21 and see what that year
That's
has
right.
in store.
Yeah. It's been a wild ride, certainly, but that will conclude us here in 2020. So we're very much looking forward to hanging out with our families. I want to make sure we know that, or you all know that. We'll keep reminding you over the next few days as well. Let me remind you about what we have today, though. At 12:30, ESPN's Heather Dinich, she'll join us. Been kind enough to hop on. Tonight, the college football playoff rankings will be released again, and so we'll discuss those with her. Obviously, the drama surrounding right now, Ohio State, maybe Southern Cal, maybe Cincinnati. So a lot of hot topics to get to with Heather. Really excited to speak with her today at 12:30 once again. She's been kind to join us around here before, and so we're going to do that again with one of the best in the business, Heather Dinich. We do have Perry Orth at 1 o'clock today, so tomorrow's signing day, and Perry does not cover recruiting, but from a player's perspective, we'll kind of take a deep dive a little bit into this program and exactly what Shane Beamer and his staff, whatever that looks like, will be trying to accomplish pretty much through May, what they'll be trying to do, what he saw this year, where they need to get instantly better and things like that. And we'll kind of tie it into this recruiting class and cycle. So that's coming up at 1 o'clock. And then at 1:30 today, the Post and Courier's Gene Sapakoff, he'll join us, and we'll obviously talk a little bit about Beamer, but we will certainly take a hard look at this weekend's ACC championship game, and for that matter, the Sun Belt championship game. Coastal Carolina set to go there. Couple of things to open with today, though. The Board of Trustees in Columbia is currently in session, and coming out of session should be an approval for the contract of Shane Beamer. It is expected to be about 5 years for $2.75 million per season. No other coaches' contracts are on that agenda because none of them are in place yet. But that is ongoing in Columbia. Any news we get from that, we'll make sure we pass it along to you here over the next couple of hours. And also, as appointed by Ross Appel with the Charleston City Council, today, December the 15th, is now known in the city of Charleston as Shane Beamer Day. How about that? He is, of course, a native of Charleston because he was born here while Frank was an assistant coach down at the Citadel some 43 years ago. And so they said, well, you know what? Why don't we make a Shane Beamer Day? Because he is the first native Charlestonian to become the head football coach of the Gamecocks. And that's what they're doing. So that'll be in the notes tonight at the city council meeting.
Pretty cool, right? You get a day named after you. So December 15th, 2020, forever and ever, it is Shane Beamer Day.
Yeah, forever and ever. Of note on Shane, we're going to try to get this in before next Wednesday, but we have, which was, I expected it because he's the best in the business and he thinks about guys like us as well, but we have been approved for an interview with Coach Beamer. From maybe the best SID out there, and Steve Fink up in Columbia, South Carolina. So at some point in time over the next few days, we're hoping to get Shane. If not, it won't be till after the new year. But they're going to try to squeeze him in by the time we jump to Christmas break next Wednesday. So hopefully he'll be around soon. Also, real quick on the Gamecocks, did get the news yesterday that Shiloh Sanders is in the transfer portal. Doesn't mean that he can't pull his name out of the transfer portal, but he is in it. And he is expected to head elsewhere. Remember, his dad, now the head coach at Jackson State, his brother, Shadir, had been committed to FAU, decommitted, committed to Jackson State to go be the quarterback for his father. Could be a similar situation.
Yeah, if he goes anywhere other than Jackson State, I would be surprised. I mean, his younger brother's about to be the quarterback there. His dad is Dion. He's the coach. He's probably going there, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows? We'll see.
Not unexpected, though, right? I mean, you guys have been saying that you expected probably Shiloh would.
Yeah, it wasn't. I had kind of heard it, but it was a rumor, and you don't really know. But it's not something that was going to be shocking if that happened,
right?
And it looks like as of now, Shiloh Sanders will not be back in a Carolina football uniform next year. You probably saw maybe the wildest game yet this season in the NFL last night. Even if you didn't see it, you've heard about it. 89 points combined between the Ravens and the Browns. Baltimore does get the win, but it was that's what Monday Night Football should be all about. A wild game like that. The Browns come roaring back there in the fourth quarter, and they scored 22 points. I think they were down, 34-20? Wasn't that the 34-20 going into the fourth? And then they put 22 on the board, but they couldn't keep the Ravens off. Of course, they hung 13 themselves, and that was fun. How much did you watch the whole thing?
I fell asleep during it and woke up to find out about that safety at the very end of the game, which cost some people some money.
Yeah.
If you may have had the Browns at +3.5, that safety didn't sit well with you, especially if you fell asleep, woke up and realized, wait a second, I thought I was about to make money. Yeah. That was not very kind.
No,
but it was a great game.
That's things like that have happened this year. There's been some weird stuff. That have cost some folks some cash in both college football and in the NFL.
Yes.
But
bad beats.
Yeah, that wasn't good. I'm anxious to talk to Raphael on
Friday.
Yeah. And see what he saw after that game.
Where the money was moving. That'd be interesting.
Yeah. 89 points in a Monday Night Football game. It
was a fun game. I mean, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no doubt. Lane Kiffin's a lot of fun as well. Kind of dancing around a little bit here. We do have Heather Dinich coming up. We're going to get into the college football playoff here in a moment. Now, Vanderbilt has hired Clark Lee from Notre Dame. That's in place. Auburn does not have a coach yet. Now, there are rumors swirling that Kevin Steele, the defensive coordinator, could be promoted to become the head coach. We'll see if those rumors come true. Apparently, there might be some backing of Kevin Steele within that program, but and you've probably seen that in places. We've seen it. That was one of the names that was first thrown out yesterday. We saw that, but I'll believe that when I see it. Lane Kiffin, though, yesterday was asked about the Auburn job, and he didn't say no. I mean, that was my takeaway. All the headlines are like, Lane Kiffin pokes fun at Nick Saban. When asked about the Auburn job, Lane Kiffin pulls out a Saban quote, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, my headline would have been Lane Kiffin didn't say no to the Auburn job.
No, and he did it while wearing a Merry Flipmas shirt,
Right,
which I loved, so I popped that up on our screen as well. Look, Lane Kiffin likes being in the media. Lane Kiffin likes to be the center of controversy. I mean, if you want to call it that,
or whatever attention it is.
Right, manufactured controversy, put it that way. I mean, he enjoys it. He thrives off of it. That's part of his brand. That's who Lane Kiffin is. So whether or not he's interested in Auburn, wouldn't shock me if he's playing the game. I mean, it's just part of who Lane Kiffin is. I don't know if he's actually interested or not, but playing the game is what he does.
Well, he credited, he's long kind of credited Saban for, I guess, maybe re-energizing his coaching career, if you want to consider it that. But he said yesterday that coaching rumors are, quote, a product of your players playing well. And then he said, quote, I wanted to say what I learned from my mentor, that if you guys are going to keep asking this, I'm going to have to tell you, I'm not going to be the head coach at Alabama, okay? So stop asking me. He went on to say, I wasn't supposed to say that, but I just had to.
Again, he enjoys doing this and being in the middle of these swirls of controversy, right?
You think he's a candidate?
It's hard to think he's not. Yeah. I mean, would Auburn kick the tires? Sure. Why not, right? We talked about that yesterday. You'd be crazy not to at least kick the tires around and see if you're interested or if Lane Kiffin's interested. But it would shock me. I mean, as Lane Kiffin is, it would still shock me if he jumps after a year at Ole Miss and the progress he made at Ole Miss. If he just says, peace, I'm going to stay right here in this division and go over there to Auburn now and play against you guys. I don't see it.
I don't think I do either. I'm not. If there is a buyout in place, and I'm not exactly sure what the buyout is, that's not a big deal for Auburn. All right, that's not a big deal. The Kevin Steele situation, though, is interesting. So let me back up. Let me back up before we get into Kevin Steele. Why is there not more surrounding Hugh Freeze? Like, what's missing? Something's missing here.
That's a good question. And there was an article from it was AL.com, that the Alabama online portion of their newspaper, and it was along the lines of the Freeze stuff has cooled down a little bit. Apparently he just had COVID, got over COVID, so maybe him being underground or quarantined or whatever, maybe that slowed the train for Kiffin a little, or for why did the name just slip? Hugh Freeze, yeah. So maybe that slowed the train for him just a little bit, but it is strange. It seemed like a natural go get him type target, but because that train has slowed down, does that mean Tennessee can wait another year?
Yeah, all right. So Hugh Freeze was never a serious candidate at South Carolina,
right?
And again, we don't have this in any type of truthful language or anything like that.
No, but speculation here.
Yeah, this is all anytime. All right, so we've heard for the last couple of months, basically, if there were openings in the SEC, that Hugh Freeze was more than likely going to be at the top of the list for many of these schools. Now, who are those schools that could have openings? Well, you and I speculated a couple of months ago: Carolina, Auburn, Vanderbilt, Tennessee.
Yes.
And the only other one that I threw in there as maybe, but probably not, but maybe, was Kentucky.
Right.
And it was kind of like if they fell off the rails and things just, whatever. But there have been changes at Kentucky. They fired Eddie Gran, their offensive coordinator, actually made a new coordinator hire today, the assistant quarterbacks coach of the LA Rams, but didn't get rid of Mark Stoops. But we were dead on about those other three.
That's right.
Except for Tennessee so far, who has to play A&M this weekend, and more than likely they're going to get beat and beat bad, and they'll finish the year 3-7. So we could be 4 for 4, basically.
Yes.
But everybody speculated for months that if there were openings in the SEC, that Hugh Freeze's name would be at the top of the list. He wasn't at the top of the list at South Carolina. That's just not true if anybody still thinks that. And he's not like a front runner for the Auburn job as we all understand it to be right now. So is it because he's not a good coach? No. Is it because teams are scared of his past? Okay.
Maybe.
Is it because the SEC, even though they've said, well, no, we're not going to be standing in the way of this, but is there more to that? Is the SEC like, because a couple of years ago, he tried to hop on staff at Bama as like an analyst for Saban, and they didn't let that happen.
There was a strong undercurrent of, well, I'll use the word again, speculation. Nobody had any concrete proof, but there was a belief that the SEC office would step in and block Kiffin. I keep calling him Kiffin.
Yeah.
Would block Freeze from coming back into the SEC. There was that rumbling. But then as his name kept popping up in the South Carolina search, however it was placed and by whoever placed it, then that feeling of, well, would the SEC really block this? I think it started to die down. But now that the fact is he wasn't really a candidate there at Carolina,
right?
And now he's kind of falling down on the list, at least in terms of the hot names you're seeing from the local sources in Alabama. He's falling down that Auburn list. Maybe there is something there.
Yeah, maybe there is. I mean, and I'm with you. You said a great term there, local sources. I'm trying to stick with the local sources. The national media folks, most of them don't have their finger on the pulse of many of these hires. In this day and age as well, with keeping things close to the vest and stuff like that, you're hiring consultants like Coach Tanner did at South Carolina. Right. There's a lot of information they're trying to keep in house and stuff like that. So I try to go directly to the local sources when they're going to make a major hire like this, and I'm not getting a lot of traction out of Hugh Freeze.
No,
there's more traction around Lane Kiffin than there is around Hugh Freeze. And Lane Kiffin's been at Ole Miss now for not even one full year. And Hugh Freeze, he can say whatever he wants to say. We all know he wants to be back in the SEC. He can say whatever he wants to say publicly. I don't get it. Now, think about this, too. Did you ever see the movie, the Michael Orr movie?
Yeah, Blindside.
Blindside,
right?
Look,
that may be the first movie reference I've successfully gotten on this show.
All right. So Michael Orr goes to Ole Miss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Orgeron was the coach at Ole Miss, right?
Yes.
All right. Where was Hugh Freeze? He was at Ole Miss.
Okay.
Under
Ed.
Yeah. Do you remember where Michael Orr wanted to go to school? This is all factual in the movie.
It was Tennessee because the whole family, Sandra Bullock, went to Tennessee.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I like Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, who doesn't? Do you know who the coach was at Tennessee?
Phil Fulmer.
You think Phil Fulmer and Hugh Freeze like each other?
Maybe not.
Food for thought there.
Well, it is because Phil Fulmer now has a decision-making power at Tennessee.
Right. Yeah. So, but Hugh Freeze has said, I mean, he has made mention of this in the past. You know, he loves Tennessee. I think he had engaged or something in Neyland Stadium or right around it or something like that. He's from Tennessee, that area, East Tennessee. I think Hugh Freeze is standing in the way of, Phil Fulmer standing in the way of Hugh Freeze ever becoming the head coach.
It's an interesting thought. It's an interesting thought. And if you're Phil Fulmer and you've got a grudge, it's in your best interest to make sure that you're doing what's best for your school.
Right.
So hopefully if Freeze is what's best for Tennessee, or if that's what you believe, you can get over your biases and you can get over your grudge. But personal influences are real. I mean, the personal feelings are real. It's hard to get past them. It's an interesting thought.
Well, and Phil Fulmer has an out too. Even if that was mentioned to him, by powers in Knoxville. Let's say there was a coaching change, and they're like, "We all want Hugh Freeze." He's got an out.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm not willing to look past his past because. So, think about this just think about it. And I know that there was a ton of fans in Columbia, South Carolina, and everywhere, Garnet and Black faithful, that well, it doesn't matter. You know what? He squashed all that. It's all history. Bring him to South Carolina. He's going to be able to recruit and he's going to win. And I don't have any doubt that he's very qualified to be the head coach. but I do question whether he would be able to recruit and win. And here's why. Because recruiting in this league is a different animal, man. It is a dog eat dog world. They are coming after you. And in this state, it very similar to Auburn and Alabama, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Georgia Tech, things like that. You have a rival in South Carolina, which is Clemson. Even though they're not in the SEC, they recruit like they're in the SEC. It's fair. It's fair. It's all fair game. I'm not. That's a plus for everybody here. But all of that's in the background of Hugh Freeze is going to be used against him in living rooms everywhere. So not only are you trying to overcome your everyday recruiting difficulties, recruiting to South Carolina as opposed to recruiting to Georgia or Auburn or now Clemson or Florida or wherever. Like, you have to overcome a lot of that stuff anyways. You got to get, as Muschamp always said, he was spot on about this. You got to get kids on campus. You got to be able to see what's here. Their parents, they were around back when all this stuff wasn't here. Like Shane Bieber just said it. I didn't even realize this was here.
Yep.
All right. Now you have to overcome another hurdle. And well, you really want to send look, that guy told all these kids the same thing when he was at Ole Miss. You think he might not be lying to you now? Is Auburn going through that? Is Tennessee going through that with maybe wanting to bring Hugh Freeze? It's already difficult to recruit to Auburn because of what surrounds it. Alabama, Tennessee, what surrounds it? Florida, Alabama, Auburn, South Carolina, Georgia, Clemson, all these big name schools. Now North Carolina, all these schools are trying to recruit against. You're going to bring a guy in who does have a track record of winning, does have a track record of recruiting, also has a track record of some bad things, although it looks like he's moved past that. On the recruiting trail, these guys can convince people that they haven't moved past that.
There's negative recruiting that goes on all the time. So how much more severe would negative recruiting be against a Hugh Freeze because of his past, say, as negative recruiting against Lane Kiffin right now? Or I mean, God, you can pick a name out of a hat here, because every school has relationships that got a little bit messy when you thought this kid was going to come and for whatever reason you had to pull that scholarship, or there was a last minute change and something went down. Negative recruiting happens, right? You want to believe that it doesn't go on as much as it does, but of course it does. You're competing for players. You're competing for your livelihood in that sense, because that's what players mean for coaches is, are we going to get an extension? Are we going to get fired? You're competing for livelihood. So naturally, if there's a little dig that you can throw at an opponent, you're going to drop that thing every now and then. Right. So I don't know how much different or worse it would be if there is the track record. I mean, if you're Hugh Freeze and someone's competing against, let's say you have the Tennessee job and you're competing against South Carolina, because Tennessee goes against Carolina all the time. You tell a kid, well, I mean, that's Hugh Freeze over there. You really going to trust him? Well, he's got a track record at Liberty now where he could say, well, all these kids trust me and everything. So I don't know. I don't know how much worse it would be.
Yeah. I mean, none of us do. And we won't until he gets back into the SEC, if he gets back into the SEC, and we'll see what that looks like. The thing is like, if you picture somebody running track and they're running the hurdles, if you've got these 4 runners over here in their lanes and they have 7 hurdles to jump, and these 2 runners over here have 9 hurdles to jump, those guys are going to be slower to the finish line than the guys with 7. And that's a lot of where it is in the SEC right now, with having to clear hurdles to get the top guys, the guys that you need to win championships. Like, if your goal is to win a championship, which it should be, no matter where you are, then you need the least number of hurdles in your way to do that. But going back to kind of bringing Kiffin back in, because that's where we kind of started this here. How could you trust Lane Kiffin if you're a kid? He up and vanished in the middle of the night in Knoxville. It was like the old Baltimore Colts, right?
Yep.
He packed up, moved out. They had to sneak him out the back door. Has anybody ever seen the behind the scenes of that? They literally had to sneak him out the back door. He had to leave in the middle of the night. They were like rioting in Knoxville. It was ridiculous, and there was a bunch of stupid students out there tearing up their own crap, but it happened. I mean, so he literally had to leave in the middle of the night. And, I don't blame him for Southern Cal, FAU, things like that. But, if you would go to Ole Miss and then leave after 1 year to go to Auburn, like, you're recruiting in the SEC, how on planet Earth, if you're in Auburn, is Lane Kiffin going to be able to walk into someone's door and say, I'm going to take care of you for the next 4 years, 3 years, 5 years, or whatever it is of your career, when every time I'm in the SEC, I can't even get through 1 year there.
It's a good point. The counterpoint would be, you know why I left Ole Miss after 1 year? It's because Auburn is where we're going to win a national championship, and I'm going to stay at Auburn.
Okay.
The only reason I left Ole Miss after 1 year is because Auburn's where I can win, and we're going to win here.
Sure.
Right. Now, the negative recruiting is still going to be the same on the back end.
And then what? Saban's going to retire, and you're going to go to Alabama. I mean, it can go on and on and on.
It can.
It's just amazing, and there's a good pool of candidates out there this year as coaches. But it's just strange to me that, we're only a couple of days into this, so it needs to kind of float itself out. And let's see where everything kind of lands and docks itself. But to hear more Kevin Steele than anything, you're like, all right, wait a second. Mario Cristobal, Hugh Freeze, Billy Napier, Kevin Steele?
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Steele? All right. Okay.
It would
whatever.
Steele would surprise me just because you're gonna run a guy out and you're gonna hire a guy who's been there for his tenure, or at least for the last couple bits. I
mean, look, we don't know the full story, right? So there could be more to it. But it is it's fascinating to think about at this point in time.
Well, here's what you can do. Today's deal at Dog and Duck, if you mention the ad on social media, it's $1 per wing. You can get 6, you can get 12, just $1 per wing at the 3 Dog and Duck locations in Mount Pleasant, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
Like 12
today
for 12.
only.
12 for 12.
6 for 6, 12 for 12.
Yeah, very good. Very good stuff. 18 for 18 for some of you big boys.
There you go. Can you add by 1?
Yeah, there you go. Good stuff. 12:26 here on this Tuesday afternoon. We do have Perry Orth ahead at 1 o'clock. Gene Sapakoff at 1:30. But coming up next here, ESPN's Heather Dinich. She's going to join us tonight. The College Football Playoff Committee will reveal their 4th set of rankings, I believe, if my math is correct.
I believe so.
And we don't expect a lot to change in the top 4 or 5, maybe for that matter. But certainly beyond there will be changes because Florida was upset this weekend by a shoe, and LSU for that matter, down in the swamp. Do want to remind you as well about our friends at McFadden Pest Control, McFaddenPestControl.com, to keep your home protected from the pests inside and out, like termites and mosquitoes, or just the daily guys that, like the silverfish that end up in your bathroom.
Yeah, those things are the worst.
They drive you nuts. You go to use a restroom and they're in the toilet. How does that even happen? Well, it won't if McFadden Pest Control is in charge. McFaddenPestControl.com, in business over 40 years. It's over 4 decades here in the Low Country. Owned by our friend Heath Gunther. He takes care of my house in all 3 phases. He should take care of yours. Do yourself a favor. Just go to McFaddenPestControl.com for more. When we return, ESPN's Heather Dinich right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
Is your old car really scary? Does it look dreadful or smell awful? Don't be frightened. There's never been a better time to trade in your spooky old car. Stokes Volkswagen just received a new shipment of the VW Atlas and VW Crossport. But here's what makes that even sweeter. Every new Atlas and Crossport is $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, every 2020 Volkswagen is available with 0% financing. That's right. You get both the huge discount and 0% financing. So if you want to play trick or treat at other dealerships, that's okay. Come see us at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or visit StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
Merry Christmas!
Keith Gunther here with McFadden Pest Control, wishing you all a happy holiday season. The only outdoors we want coming inside your home this time of year is the Christmas tree. McFadden Pest Control wants to make sure your family has a safe and enjoyable holiday season. And the best way we know how to do that is to make sure your homes are pest-free. We've been protecting the Low Country for over 40 years. Families trust us. We hope you will too. We're wishing you and your family a Merry Christmas from the entire McFadden Pest Control family. McFaddenPestControl.com.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
Nobody's walking out on this fun old-fashioned family Christmas. No, we're all in this together. This is a full-blown 4-alarm holiday emergency here. We're going to press on, and we're going to have the happiest Christmas since Bing Crosby tap danced.
The JB and Goldwater Show.
Best Christmas movie ever.
Wow.
Christmas Vacation. I mean, I quote the movie all year.
I was watching Home Alone last night because Grayson, our daughter, who's 7, has never seen the movie.
Oh.
So we figured, all right, let's get Grayson in on some Home Alone.
Yeah.
Jen, she
Good
enjoyed it. Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't enjoy Home Alone?
I don't know. I was wondering if we were good parents or bad parents by showing Grayson all the possible things you could do at the house to really cause damage. Because Macaulay Culkin's in 2nd grade in the movie. That's what Grayson said.
Yeah, that's dangerous. She doesn't have any of those little race cars, does she? Hopefully not.
We got other things you can break your feet on, I promise.
Let's find out what Heather Dinich's favorite Christmas movie is. On Twitter at CFB Heather. She does have some important things to do these days, like, covering the college football playoff. But before we get there, what is your favorite Christmas movie, Heather Dinich?
Oh, man. I mean, there's so many of them. I'm a sucker for classics like White Christmas that actually might be at the top of my list.
Is
that boring?
Nope, it's perfect. I think it's great because every year they show White Christmas, they show It's a Wonderful Life, like on network TV, and I've recorded every good Christmas movie ever, and I have them all on my DVR, but I don't have those two, so I'm looking forward to recording those this year. But I'm with you. I think that's great. Well done. Big fan of your Christmas list and your coverage of college football. You're one of the best out there. All right, Heather.
Thank you so much.
Well, no, thank you for being so kind to join us today. I know it's a busy day for you tonight. I'm pretty sure my math is correct on this. It's week 4 of college football playoff rankings that will be released. And I don't think we anticipate anything changing in the top 4, or for that matter, maybe the top 5, but from 6 down certainly could be. But before, as we roll towards 7 o'clock or so tonight on ESPN, your thoughts on those top 4? Ohio State certainly has a bunch of controversy surrounding them being 5-0.
It does, but they have an opportunity to punctuate their resume against a really good Northwestern team and add a Big Ten title. And that's important because it's one of the tiebreakers that the selection committee uses to evaluate teams that are comparable. And Ohio State and Texas A&M have kind of been neck and neck in the committee's eyes over the last week or so. And that could be an interesting debate for them. I do think that it could also look status quo if Clemson beats Notre Dame and Ohio State beats Northwestern and Alabama wins as everyone expects. You could see the top 4 not have much of a shakeup at all.
All right, so everybody's been talking about the games that Ohio State lost this year by virtue of starting the season late, obviously having to change the conference rules and things like that. But how about the game that A&M lost against Ole Miss? I mean, they're 7-1. They do have Tennessee coming up this weekend. Tennessee is not any good, and they'll win the game, and they should win it handedly. But what would a big win over a Lane Kiffin-coached, offensive-filled Ole Miss team, what would that have done to help the Aggies' resume, in your opinion?
Well, it certainly would have helped, but I think it's also weighed against every other team that also had opportunities not lost in the sense on the field, but canceled. And at the end of the day, if they can win convincingly against Tennessee, which I agree with you, they should, they're still in a much better position in terms of chances to impress the selection committee than Ohio State is. I think, I'll be curious to see how far Florida falls, because then you're looking at a bump potentially of Iowa State, and Cincinnati. And we haven't even mentioned them. And as they slowly rise, how legitimate do their playoff hopes really become if there is some chaos in that top 4 in those conference championship games? But, I don't think Texas A&M missing that game is as big as a factor as how badly they lost to Alabama and not having a chance to win the SEC West. Because, again, when it goes to similar teams and Ohio State having that tiebreaker, that could be the difference. But are they comparable teams if one team only played 6 games and one played 9? Because if they're not, they don't have to use that tiebreaker.
So obviously now the committee believes Ohio State because they keep putting them in there. And if you're comparing regardless of how many games you've actually played, they believe Ohio State would be one of the top 4 teams in the country. Maybe more comparable would be Southern Cal. Is there actually a chance that the Trojans slide in if they finish undefeated and beat Oregon?
I believe that the committee will talk about USC. They'll talk about it, and they will very quickly say they're not as good as these other Power 5 conference champions. And I think while many people are pointing out to the fact they played the exact same amount of games as Ohio State, yes, but they won every one by a hair, while Ohio State has won more convincingly. And we've heard Selection Committee Chair Gary Barta say repeatedly this season, the eye test is going to matter this year more than any other season. And when you look at Ohio State and you watch USC, and I'm talking about game film, remember, they have game film on iPads, coaches' cut-ups, that they breeze through these teams. Which one is better? And to this point, they haven't even deemed USC a top 10 team. I don't have it in front of me, but I think they're at 15. So to think that just a win over a mediocre at best Oregon team that snuck into the championship game through the back door, is that going to catapult them to the top 4? I don't think so, but they'll at least talk about it.
Heather Dinich, ESPN. One of your colleagues before the season, Desmond Howard, picked the Cincinnati Bearcats to make it into the college football playoff. You remember that?
I remember that.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Here they are at number 6. They're 8-0. And you just mentioned the eye test, and that's true. The eye test is going to matter as much this year as ever with this pandemic ongoing and the inconsistent number of games played between each of these programs. What is the eye test? What are you hearing when you talk to some of these committee members, or if you talk to some of them? What do they say about Cincinnati?
They like Cincinnati. They do. They like them particularly on defense. They know that they're a well-coached team. I think if you're a Cincinnati fan, you're still reeling from the fact that they're behind a 2-loss Iowa State team. That's really difficult to swallow. And I think it's also really hard for the selection committee to explain, especially when you factor in the eye test. And the only thing that Gary Barta has said about that was just the surge in the improvement that Iowa State has made. He said last week that it's not anything Cincinnati didn't do. It's about what Iowa State has done down the stretch and looking like what they believe is a better team than Cincinnati. But I agree with Desmond in that if that 4th spot is open, and to me that happens by Clemson losing, and you're looking at Alabama and Notre Dame and Ohio State in those 3 spots, who do you give that 4th spot to? Personally, if I were on the committee, I would award it to Cincinnati. I think the selection committee would go with Texas A&M.
Wow. Yeah, and it's very interesting because you've got – all right, so you mentioned something with Clemson. Let's just start there. Let's go back there. All right, so Clemson's got the 1 loss, a touchdown loss, without Trevor Lawrence, without the middle of their defense on the road in South Bend against the second-ranked team in the country. Well, eventually second-ranked team in the country in Notre Dame by virtue of that win, certainly. Dabo, though, if you've listened, which I know you have because you covered Dabo, the last week or so, anytime he speaks, if somebody says something that is in any way, shape, or form critical of the ACC, he's got something to say about it. And is it in your sense that Dabo is maybe even trying to protect Clemson if they happen to lose to Notre Dame again? I know they'd have 2 losses, but they'd have 2 losses. It'd have to be a close one to the second-ranked team in the country. Is he kind of vying for that? Hey, we should be a 2-loss team in the playoff if we happen to drop the ACC title game.
That's exactly what he's doing. Preemptive strike. And I think it's extremely difficult for the selection committee to justify a 2-loss Clemson team. And I say that because, well, first of all, you have to beat Notre Dame with Trevor Lawrence in the lineup. Okay, you have to do that. And if you don't have a conference title, the bar to finish in the top 4 gets higher, right? In that selection committee meeting room, you have to face a greater amount of scrutiny to get in there. We have not seen a 2-loss team get in. That doesn't mean it can't happen. But when you take out Notre Dame from Clemson's schedule, their best win is against Miami, which is a great win. Miami's a great team this year. Beyond that, you're looking at Boston College and Pitt, I believe, are the only 2 opponents over 500. So is that enough without an ACC title? My gut says no. Maybe there are some committee members in there who feel differently about it, but I think Dabo's doing what he probably should do, which is speak up for his team and his program. I get it, but at the same time, I don't think it's enough.
ESPN's Heather Dinich is with us now, so let's stay in the ACC. And it's ironic to me that Notre Dame has been avoiding this conference thing forever. Now they're in a conference, and the fact that they're in a conference could be what costs them a chance to go to the playoff, because if they weren't playing in the ACC championship game, they'd probably be a shoo-in at this point. If they lose, however they lose, so they lose by a field goal at the buzzer, is there a way Notre Dame loses to Clemson and gets in?
Yes, I think that Notre Dame is, I'm not going to say that they're a lock, but I think they're pretty close to it because, well, part of it is who else do you put in?
Right.
We're already scrutinizing Ohio State, right? So I think Alabama, Clemson are definitely in. Ohio State and Notre Dame, that's the scenario where I think you can see the top four being almost identical to what it is right now. I think the biggest chaos factor is Clemson losing again, because that would open up that fourth spot for somebody else. But if you really want to give the committee a headache, it's Ohio State and Clemson losing.
You mentioned chaos, and in addition to the terms in which you just rolled out there, what else would need to happen? Obviously, Iowa State needs to beat Oklahoma, but what else would need to happen in front of them for them to even have a chance to crack it?
For Iowa State?
Iowa State, yep.
Yep. Texas A&M has to lose to Tennessee.
Yeah.
I think that's the big one. But it would help them if Cincinnati lost to Tulsa, even though they're sitting there behind them. Beating a ranked opponent and winning the American Athletic Conference, it still counts for something. It'll be interesting to see what they would do in that debate, but I think the Texas A&M Tennessee game would be critical in that situation.
So Heather, you're tied in with as anybody in the world in these conversations with what you do with ESPN. And obviously, again, we all have to continue to remember and remind ourselves that this pandemic is causing much of this quote chaos. We'll use that word again, but there is chaos also every year as it pertains to the college football playoff. And it's fun chaos for all of us, not for the team that gets left out. You mentioned a few moments ago that the conference championship certainly matters. It really matters to be able to get in. I mean, that's why Southern Cal is even in this conversation for that point, or to that point. In your conversations that you have, has this pandemic maybe cracked that door open a little bit wider to expand the playoff in the future?
I think it's something that is going to be revisited because it was talked about before the Pac-12 began playing. Larry Scott, the Pac-12 commissioner, brought it up in a CFP meeting with the 10 FBS commissioners and Jack Swarbrick. And I actually considered it a mini victory for him because while it didn't expand, he got them to talk about it. An 8-team playoff for this season was discussed. To me, that's important. And there wasn't enough support for it at the time. But there was some support. That's also important to remember. But trying to do it now in this year, probably would have had to be unanimous amongst all 11 of those people. And then you have to get the university presidents and chancellors on board who run the CFP as well. So I think discussing that is a great starting point. I think they'll continue to evaluate. And I think it's inevitable. Can it get fast-tracked? Yeah, maybe. It'll be interesting to check in postseason and see where all the commissioners stand after this, because I'm curious as to what their athletic directors in their respective leagues are telling them about their budgets and financially, and lay out the presentation. How much can we gain from doing this sooner than later? And I think that helps answer the question.
Well, some of those athletic directors don't care about that, like at Auburn and
careful there.
How much
it did just happen in Carolina too?
Oh, I know. I was getting the board of trustees just officially approved Coach Beamer's contract. Yeah. Sometimes it's just, well, how much money do you need? Is there a pandemic? That doesn't matter. Well, you mentioned the commissioners. I do want to ask you quickly about Jim Phillips leaving Northwestern to take over the Atlantic Coast Conference. Your thoughts on that hire to run that league?
So I have heard nothing but good things about Jim Phillips, and I say that sincerely. I don't know him very well. I'm looking forward to working with him and talking to him about the playoff. I think some people just outside of college football were hoping that he may have been the Big Ten commissioner when Jim Delaney left. I think he's just held in such high regard in that aspect. So I think Big Ten Conference and Northwestern, obviously in particular, is sad to lose him, but I think he'll do a terrific job for the ACC based on what I'm hearing from other people. He sounds like a real class act.
Yeah.
How much more difficult has it been for you? I mean, I know everyone's job and life has been more difficult this year, but for someone who is constantly around that war room or whatever you guys want to call it, when the committee's meeting, you're constantly there, you're constantly plugged in. How much harder is it to kind of do this remotely and get your information here remotely?
Yeah, it's a lot different, a lot more difficult, a lot more phones. But you know what? The phones have been vital since March.
Yeah.
And that's how I've been covering this whole thing. And it's not just the playoff. It's talking to athletic directors and commissioners and, the people that I call the suits of the sport, right? Because the coaches, at the end of the day, I get on their teleconferences, but they're not the ones that are making these decisions. So just the old school reporting of getting on the phone and calling people. What's really amazing is that I've probably talk to more people because of this than I usually would, just by the nature of having to and report so much. I mean, guys, you've seen this. This is a news cycle that changes by the hour still, constantly, right? So it's an everyday thing. But man, I really do miss being at the Gaylord Texan Hotel, especially at the first and last rankings, to get a feel for what those committee members are doing and seeing them. And especially this year, with it being so different, wearing masks and 6 feet apart and all of that, I definitely feel something is missing.
Yeah, it's certainly. Heather Dinich, ESPN. Couple minutes, if you don't mind, and then we'll let you run. We know you've got more important things to do today than sit around and talk about Christmas movies with Darren and I. But I wanted to get your thoughts as well on some of what's going on and in the coach. I'd call it a coaching carousel, kind of more like a Ferris wheel. It's not really it's not spinning with 20 openings out there. Certainly many programs are in a crunch for finances this year. The SEC generally isn't, and they're still not. South Carolina tabbed Shane Beamer. Auburn's job is open. There are names swirling. We'll see. Vanderbilt just added Clark Lee. You've got Illinois, you've got Arizona open. Am I missing anything out there? No, I don't think so.
I think you got them.
I think I got them all. Your thoughts, just how this has worked in a pandemic year. I think back in July and August, we all kind of thought, Heather, everybody for the most part is probably going to be pretty safe this year. I mean, everybody's losing money and things like that. That's not necessarily the case. It appears that the big dogs are still the big dogs in this sport. And if you've got money, you can pretty much do whatever you want to do.
You're right, and I have mixed feelings about it, to be honest, because I watched the Arizona game, and after that, you're just like, nobody's surprised to see the result of Kevin Sumlin's situation there, right? That's not a shocker by any stretch of the imagination. Super excited for Shane Beamer. I've known him since I covered the ACC, and obviously his dad was a selection committee member, and they're an amazing family. And I say that because I've had the chance to get to know all of them over the years. So great hire there. But I say that I have mixed emotions because we are in a pandemic, and I don't think people understand just how difficult it has been for these coaches to stop, to start, to test every day. I mean, you're out there. Some coaches are trying to play with backup players, without their entire cast of offensive linemen or whatever it might be, right? There's issues every day. And a lot of them are probably not even reported because there are a lot of schools that keep some of these things private and just list numbers, if they list them at all, without saying what team it even is. So it's exhausting for the players and the coaches and the staff. And to have a football season is an accomplishment. So on one hand, I think it's really tough to say, you know what, you guys didn't do really good this year. You're fired. And it's just like, we played. We finished the season. Like, that in itself is an accomplishment. But with some of them, yeah, I get it. But I just think it's such a tough call to make during a season that was already so difficult.
do you anticipate more coaching changes here over the next, signing day starts tomorrow. We know how this works, right? Some of these things start to trickle out after that. You still have conference championship games coming up this weekend. There's still makeup games to be played. Then you're kind of into bowl season. I'd say over the next 10 to 14 days, maybe through Christmas, do you anticipate some other major changes out there in the sport?
It's kind of hard to forecast it. It's typically how it goes, right? I'm curious to see what happens at Michigan. Harbaugh has said, I'm committed to Michigan. Well, are you committed to him? If so, give him the contract already. What's going on, So they've said repeatedly that they're going to talk about it at the end of the season. So we'll see what happens there. I think that's the other big one everybody has their eye on. But it's just, 'tis the season for the coaching search.
Absolutely.
Well, congratulations on your Hoosiers because they had a heck of a year.
Yes, absolutely.
They did have a heck of a year. They did. It was nice to see them do that. But you know what? From the very clear view on it, I don't know how good the Big Ten is this year.
Yeah.
I don't know how good Indiana really is. But they got over the hump, right? And to be able to win that game against Penn State, that's the one where Michael Penix Jr. pretty much laid out.
Yeah.
And I still, to this day, cannot confirm or deny if that was a touchdown. But those are the kinds of plays that you need to take the next step in your program. And Tom Allen has done a fantastic job, but I don't think the Big Ten's very good.
No, and you know me. I'm obviously a Penn State guy. I thought from the second it happened, and I haven't changed my mind, I thought he actually got in. I do. I thought the ball, I thought the ball crossed the plane before it hit out of bounds. But a lot of friends of mine do not agree with me.
No, they don't.
Well, we'll see. But I mean, even, in talking about the coaching changes and the obstacles, look at James Franklin, a new coordinator, no spring practice, Micah Parsons leaves, there's just a multitude of things that happen that add up to what happened at Penn State. Now, if that keeps happening, then it's a problem, right? But to me, that's an anomaly.
Indiana and Purdue will not be playing this weekend for the old Oaken Bucket.
Which,
by the way, Darren and I are going to play rivalry trophy trivia a little bit later on in our program. I've got a couple of them to throw out. He probably has no idea who
I'll
plays
fail.
for what. But that's the first time that they won't play this game this weekend since you want to know when? You probably know, Heather. Do you know, Darren?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. I'd say the 19.
That's right. The Spanish flu.
There you go.
It takes a pandemic to knock Indiana and Purdue out of playing a football game. And here we are.
Oh, are you serious? Is that right?
100 years later. Yeah, haven't played 100 years.
Wow. That is crazy.
That's going to bode well for trivia time. Me randomly guessing 1918.
Yeah. In Indiana,
Good sign.
I've got another one for you, Heather. You're welcome to steal this stat if you haven't already. You can have it. No cash exchange, anything like that. Indiana's 6-1. Ohio State's 5-0. They're a combined 11-1.
Yeah.
All right. You know how many of those 11 wins are against teams with winning records, Heather?
I guess 2.
1. Yeah. Ohio State over in Indiana. That's it.
I told you the Big Ten's not very good.
Yeah. There you go. That's my what is that? The Corso stat of the day,
Yeah,
or
I guess
something like
so.
that. Heather Dinich,
go.
hey, look, thank you so much. I know we probably kept you a few minutes longer than we planned on, but it was really great to speak with you. You do as good of a job as anybody that covers this sport. It is a thrill to be able to read and your work and watch you on TV and things like that. And you're always welcome around here. And I doubt we'll talk to you before Christmas, so we wish you the merriest of Christmases this holiday season.
You guys are so kind. Thank you so very, very much for the nice words, and you guys do a great job too. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, ma'am.
Later,
Thank
Heather.
you. There you go. Heather Dinich with ESPN on Twitter at CFB Heather. All right. Not to take a hard right turn here, but we do have official news coming out of Columbia, South Carolina. So let me pull up my email. And I can give you some details of
the done deal.
Shane Beamer's new contract.
That's right.
Of course, having to shuffle through emails here from
I can tell
Steve
you
Fink.
it is 5 years, 2.75.
Yes.
And in the event he gets fired, he is owed 60-some percent.
65%.
There you go.
Yeah, 65% of his contract. Here it is. As Darren just mentioned, $2.75 million in base salary. $1.1 million of that $2.75 will come from the university itself. $1.65 million will come from the athletic department rights holders. If people don't know what that means, well, there's a lot that goes into that, but
Learfield,
yeah,
SEC, right holders is immediate thing.
Mostly all media,
yes,
for the most part.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. If South Carolina fires Shane Beamer without cause, they will be required to pay 65% of his annual income through the life of the contract. If Shane Beamer voids the contract without cause, he'd owe the university $7 million in the first year, and it would decrease each subsequent year of the deal. He would also be able to earn up to $1.45 million in potential incentives as well. $200,000 for making the SEC title game, $250,000 more if he wins the SEC championship. He'd also get bonuses based on which bowl the Gamecocks go to. And of course, if they win a national championship, he would receive $1 million in incentive money. And remember, these figures are year by year. It's not like he just gets it once. So if they win 4 national championships in a row, he'll get $4 million. I wouldn't bet on that, but if they did, he's going to be $4 million more richer. He'll also earn $75,000 if he's the SEC Coach of the Year, $125,000 more if he wins National Coach of the Year as well for Shane Beamer. So there you go. Some of the inside workings of the new contract for the Gamecocks head man in Columbia. And again, today, remember, is Shane Beamer Day in the city of Charleston. It will be in the notes tonight at the council committee meeting.
Good day to be Shane Beamer. You get a day named after you in the city of your birth, and you get a $2.75 annual $1 million deal.
That's right.
Here's a question. If he wins a national championship, you just said he gets $1 million.
Correct.
What is worth more, the $1 million or how he will forever be revered in Columbia?
Oh, forever. Forever. Well, first of all, if you win it, for those that aren't Carolina fans,
$1 million is pennies compared to.
For those that aren't Carolina fans that are listening or watching to this program and like chuckling, I hear you, I get it. But to have fun and play hypotheticals with it, if he wins a national championship, he's going to probably get a new contract. It's going to be worth a lot more than $1 million. So yeah, it's
and he will forever be able to do whatever he wants in Columbia.
That's right,
and in the state probably.
Pretty much, yeah. It'll probably
whatever he wants.
It won't just be Shane Beamer Day in the city of Charleston. It'll be Shane Beamer Day in the state of South Carolina for every day for probably until the next football season.
Yeah, we're through it.
More than likely how that would work out. But let's not put the cart before the horse and all that.
You're not ready to talk Carolina national championship yet?
We're not there.
Okay.
We're not there just yet. But we are to a timeout at the books here on the JB and Goldwater Show. When we return, signing day starts tomorrow, and they'll sign through Friday in the early period here. Perry Orth is going to tell us what he thinks South Carolina should be most focused on to rebuild their football program. He's up next on the JB and Goldwater Show, protected by McFadden Pest Control.
Merry Christmas!
Keith Gunther here with McFadden Pest Control, wishing you all a happy holiday season. The only outdoors we want coming inside your home this time of year is the Christmas tree. McFadden Pest Control wants to make sure your family has a safe and enjoyable holiday season. And the best way we know how to...
Merry Christmas!
Keith Gunther here with McFadden Pest Control, wishing you all a happy holiday season. The only outdoors we want coming inside your home this time of year is the Christmas tree. McFadden Pest Control wants to make sure your family has a safe and enjoyable holiday season. And the best way we know how to do that is to make sure your homes are pest-free. We've been protecting the Low Country for over 40 years. Families trust us. We hope you will too. We're wishing you and your family a Merry Christmas from the entire McFadden Pest Control family. McFaddenPestControl.com.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston, Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Low Country. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Flamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
JB Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
All right, final hour here on a chilly Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back. December the 15th, the JB and Goldwater Show, protected by McFadden Pest Control. Find them at McFaddenPestControl.com. Download the all-new JB and Goldwater app to watch and listen to our program daily right here until 2 p.m. and head to JBandGoldwaterShow.com. If you're watching, to the right of your screen is Darren. I'm Jamie. If you're listening, doesn't matter where we sit, as long as you can hear us, and as long as you can hear Perry Orth, former quarterback at South Carolina, joining us now, as he generally does, at 1 o'clock on Tuesday afternoons. What's up, my friend?
Nothing much, man. On the road today, trying to make it happen. Glad I was able to hop on the call.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, my dear Perry Orth. Excuse me, state champion Perry Orth.
There you go. Much better.
That's sorry about that. Had to correct myself there. All right, Perry. Once again, congratulations on being a state champion. You can also find him at QB1athletics.com. If you'd like him to train your next state champion, he could do that. Generally, when he trains quarterbacks, they turn into state champions around here. So that's the way it works in the Palmetto State these days. And Perry will take care of your young man if you've got one who wants to get better. QB1athletics.com. Gamecocks trying to get better, Perry. It is official now. Beamer is in the books as the next head coach at Carolina. That contract is done and approved per the Board of Trustees. I don't know, about 20 minutes ago is when the news really officially came out, but we all knew it was coming. But he's got a lot on his plate moving forward because signing day starts tomorrow. Nobody's expecting this to be a big signing day for South Carolina. They obviously lost some commitments and things like that. Might be a couple of surprises. We'll see. We had Wes Mitchell on yesterday. We got JC tomorrow, so we'll get some updates on that. They also have till February to sign more players. And then there's this thing out there, Perry, called the transfer portal. Ever heard of it? A lot of guys popping in that these days. I think 20-something of them yesterday alone jumped into the transfer portal, including a bunch of quarterbacks. As you watch this team play this year, they're 2-8, probably have a bowl game on deck if they're able to field enough players to go out and play in one. If you can list like an ABC or a 1, 2, 3, what did you see that says, if you want to compete in 2021, you're going to have to get better right there?
Yeah, man, that's a tough question. I think because if you look across the board, I mean, what stood out as something that was extremely positive? You go to the run game, so that was incredible. Kevin Harris finding a hidden gem like that was good. Where we need to start, I think defensively. Let's start on the defensive side of the ball. I think getting somebody to rush the passer. I feel like you look at teams that are constantly in the top 5 in the country, the Alabamas, and I hate to say it, but the Clemsons and the schools like that, they have pass rushers, whether their defense is elite or not. If you can rush the passer, you're putting yourself in a really good chance to win, because teams have to throw the ball to win. I mean, you can have a good balanced run game. We had an amazing run game. We went 2-8. So you got to find somebody to do that. Next, obviously safeties. We are very thin, and we have not played very well at that position for some years now. Finding some JUCO kids or maybe some transfers, grad transfers, somebody to help to come in to stimulate that position is certainly needed. I think that as far as the defensive line goes, I think we've got some good players, but maybe an elite pass rusher. Find somebody who really pin their ears back and go. I would start on that side of the ball. Offensively, I think we have pieces in place to be really well, and then I think the obvious on offense would be receivers. Go out and get some athletes, recruit some, whether freshmen, JUCO, again, grad transfer, somebody to come in and make a positive impact early. It's going to be huge for us. We need that position group to step up if we want to have a much more competitive 2021 season.
I'm going to try to encompass a few facts into my next statement here for your response. But back when you first got to South Carolina, that was, 2013, right, Perry? And obviously won 11 games that year and things like that. And a lot of folks can and rightfully so, and it should be, attributed that era, that 10 through 13 era, to what Carolina was able to accomplish in the trenches on both sides of the football. Clearly, Connor had a lot to do with that at quarterback and being able to escape pressure and things like that. But they were real, elite almost in the trenches. And it wasn't just Clowney. I mean, there are so many other names, and they all went on to the NFL. And there's a ton of offensive linemen from that era that went on to the NFL. I mean, they won games there playing up front. And as time went on, that got a little bit worse. You look up the road at Clemson, that's when they went from very good to elite. They started recruiting the best guys, and they got them in, and look what they've done. But I say that to also mention this, Perry. What do you think about the scheme that they have been playing in for the last 5 years under T-Rob and Coach Muschamp? That, we're kind of running that buck position out there. If you go back to what Ellis Johnson had kind of laid in place at that 4-2-5, when you could find the right athletes and have a spur position, is that something that you can do a little bit more with less when it comes to the talent on your roster in this league?
Yeah, I think so. I think what teams what they need to do, in my opinion, defensively is you don't have to come up with any kind of crazy blitz packages or crazy coverages, because at the end of the day, coverages are coverages, and this is from an offensive standpoint. Now, I agree. The 4-2-5, it's pretty basic. But if you get a guy that can truly play that spur position, who can put his face in the run game, then also cover and pass, you can do a lot with him. But simplifying things, but at the same time, disguising coverages, I don't think we did a very good job of that. I was listening to somebody was talking about, I can't remember, it was a quarterback that we had played, and I wish I could remember to make this statement a little bit easier and more relevant, but he basically came out and said they just stand there and line up and play ball. And they make it really obvious for us as quarterbacks and coaches to pick up and identify what they're trying to accomplish. And I know from experience, when a defense just lined up and played the coverage they showed, that was, when I had the best games of my career, when they struggled disguising coverages and hiding what they did. That was when I really, really felt good going into a game. But teams that make it confusing and hard to read, they show one thing and do another, that makes it difficult. And I think we need to find a way to get to that. And you can do that in a 4-2-5, because a 4-2-5 allows you to keep two safeties back, which, we did a lot of under Muschamp. But then at the same time, when you have two safeties back, you can roll coverages. You can switch from 2-man to 4 to cover 2 to cover 6, while also doing different zone pressures as well. So It really, man, it really all depends on your personnel. If you've
Right.
got, four or five really good defensive linemen that you feel like you can trust that can go out week in, week out and just raise hell, then rock with a 4-2-5. But if not, if you can't, then I think your best bet is to obviously figure out a way to do that. But your best bet would then be to move towards the 3-4 type.
Apparently, it was Matt
that being-
Corral,
yeah.
Ole Miss's quarterback,
It was
who
Matt Corral.
said that, about the defense.
Yep, exactly. So he didn't really seem to have an issue, and that is going to cause us Gamecock folk issues.
Yeah, Perry. So, all right, for the personnel that they have, all right. So here's the way I'm kind of looking at this, and you know more than me, so that's where you step in and correct everything I'm about to say because I'm probably wrong, but I hope I'm not. When I look at the personnel that they have, and obviously, like you said, yeah, you're going to have to they're going to have to continue to pick up players and things like that, but. Jordan Birch and JJ and Igbare, I think are the two guys right now that you can kind of circle and say, man, they got high ceilings. I mean, JJ played 2.5 less games than an entire slate this year, the entire 10-game slate, and he's at the top of the league when it comes to sacks. Although sacks are not as important as they once were. Jordan Birch, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he was one of the top guys in the country for a reason. Everybody wanted him. Mm-hmm. Everybody. And the way I see it, Perry, is if you can get both of those guys with their hands on the ground and find a way to make the tackle positions or nose guard or whatever you put between them much better, that's where you probably start with improving this defense. Those guys need to be able to just go get the quarterback.
Well, sorry, I was on mute. I didn't want the car rattling to distract anybody. Yeah, you're right. I mean, again, and I may be kind of going off on my own tangent here, but guys like Jordan Birch have to take the next step. Mm-hmm. Guys like, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. The kid from TL Hanna.
Zach Pickens.
These highly recruited and touted kids got to take the next step. We're not asking them to be Jadeveon Clowney, but go out and be those run stoppers while also finding ways to be creative in rushing the passer. Defensively behind him, we're thin. We're thin, and we don't have a lot of guys that can go out and make plays. It's just a little confused on where the recruiting was. But anyway, so there are different things that you're going to have to do, and you're going to have to be creative. And I know I typically tailor my speeches based off offense, but defense is no different. You can't just, like on offense perspective, you can't just line up and play, football. You can't just say, okay, we're going to play this formation. When we line up in this formation, we're going to pass it. Or if we have 2 tight ends in the game, we're going to run it. And we're just going to beat you because we're better. That doesn't happen. Not at a school like South Carolina, and really not really anywhere. So it kind of is the same way defensively. So we've got to utilize the talent that we have, find creative ways to maximize their potential, and then go full tilt and get it done.
Perry Orth, former quarterback in South Carolina, 113 here on this Tuesday afternoon. You mentioned the offense. So Mike Bobo a few weeks ago up at the podium after he took over as interim head coach from Coach Muschamp, he mentioned something that I thought was interesting. He was talking about the backgrounds of a lot of the wide receivers that were on this roster and where they came from, what they did in high school and things like that. And obviously before the year, lost O'Trey Smith, lost Reek Davis, certainly knew that they were turned shy. And then there were some other guys who were trying to roll out there and some young guys or some guys who've changed positions like DeCarrion, whom you know well. And for that matter, heck, even Luke Doty. Mm-hmm. And then they had some other young guys, Ja'Carr Caldwell and Rico Powers and Josh Van's been around a while, but he's a guy who hadn't really stepped up and done a whole lot the last couple of years. I know he was banged up at one point in time and things like that, but the point is he went into depth and detail about what they did in high school, the systems they were in and things like that, Perry. And you're around high school football, you coach it, so you see it. And he basically made a point that a lot of these guys, what they play in and then what they come to school and have to learn as college wide receivers is different. Route running and things like that. It's much more complex. And a lot of these guys don't even know as much as wide receivers of years past used to know because of evolving offenses these days. Can you comment on that and how that maybe when you get to college and the learning curve that some of these guys are going through now, maybe as opposed to what we used to see, and also the loss of spring practice, how that affected all of that.
Yeah, I think route running's the same regardless. I think that obviously when you go from high school to college, there is a learning curve as far as the X's and O's and learning to, hey, just because you have a seam route doesn't mean that you just run as fast as you can up the seam and just hope the ball gets thrown to you. Obviously, you got to choke it down in front of the safety if you hadn't gotten the ball yet. On scramble drills, if the quarterback's scrambling to you and you're short, you turn up deep, or if you're long, you come back. The intricacies of the game definitely evolve and are different from high school to college, but you see that the kids that come from good high school programs can step in and play well at the next level. Look at the kid at Tennessee, Jalen Hyatt from Dutch Fork. I mean, he's up there lighting it up, and he's no more gifted than, say, one of the freshmen that we brought in, but he's used to being coached at a high level and understands football. So now it just comes down to him memorizing the plays, and once he gets out there, he's able to do the things that he's learned since his ninth grade year on Saturdays, where other kids just may be gifted athletes and just grabbing the ball and run around, make people miss, making plays, but have no idea that, hey, if it's zone coverage and I'm running a shallow route or a crossing route, I don't need to just keep running right to where somebody's covering grass. I need to break it down and sit right in the soft spot of the zone so the quarterback can find me. That takes time to learn. And so it is important of the type of player that you recruit and the type of background they have and who they were coached by versus just, oh man, they look great with the ball in their hand on film, so let's go get them. Well, you're either going to put yourself behind the eight ball, or you're extremely confident in yourself as a coach that you're going to quote unquote coach them up. Would like to go get guys that have been coached up. So when I get them, I can plug and play, because you can do more with a guy that understands football than just an athlete.
That's a great answer. Great. And that's kind of what I thought he was alluding to was, look, there's just guys who just don't quite understand some of what you need to understand if you want to play this early at this level in the SEC and things like that. Really, really wonderful response there, Perry. All indications as of now are that, Ryan will probably be back next year as a quarterback on this roster. I really hope he is. Hope the best for Ryan Helinski. Certainly a tough year for him to be able to get on the field and play once again like he did in 2019. Luke, clearly the starter at the end of the season. There's some thought out there, Perry, that they could be looking at taking potentially a transfer quarterback. What are your thoughts about that if Carolina was in the market for some another signal caller on this roster?
Yeah, it really depends on who comes.
There went Perry.
He just hung up on us.
Yeah, he did.
I think he's done this before, but that's an important answer. So
we're gonna get him right back here.
Don't go anywhere. Hang tight. Perry is coming right back here at 118 here on this Tuesday afternoon.
I mean, we've heard it a bunch that I think it was JC who first brought it up about the quarterback probably being something that South Carolina would look towards just because of what's on the roster, and then moving forward, if it is going to be Luke, then if the new offense is tailored to Doty, then where do some of the other guys fit in? But we do have Perry back now.
I don't know what happened, Perry, but it's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I looked down and said call ended. I said, oh, I guess they had enough of me today.
No.
But no, if they go out and get an OC, like I was saying, that wants to run a very specific style of offense and has a quarterback that he knows and can trust to go out and do it, then go get him. But a lot of times I know if I'm calling plays, I'm tailoring my offense, not so much plays, but the type of plays that I call based off of who I have back there, right? If I have Luke Doty back there, a lot more zone read, a lot more get outside the pocket, quick, easy throws to where you're building confidence, but also giving him the ability to make plays in space. Ryan Helinski, I'm going run heavy with a lot of play action, forcing the ball down the field, stretching defenses because he's not going to do it with your feet, but he can with his arm. Utilizing your run game to open up the pass as well, similar to what we saw this year. So with that being said, it really does come down to who's going to be calling plays, what kind of offense do they run and want to run, and do they have a quarterback that's in the transfer portal that they believe that can do that?
Yeah, so essentially something that probably, if they were to consider taking a transfer quarterback, something that probably wouldn't be decided until there's an offensive coordinator in place, a game plan is in place. Like if they got a call tomorrow from Chase Bryce, who's now transferring again, by the way, from Duke, or the kid from Louisville or the kid from Temple or whomever it may be, it might be hold tight because we don't exactly know where this thing is going. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, once the OC gets hired, he'll look at the roster and who we have and what he can do. I don't think that we should be in the market for a grad transfer. I think that Luke and Ryan give you more than enough to run an offense and run it successfully.
Yeah.
But I'm obviously much closer to the program than he is, and he's got to go off of what he's heard and, more importantly, what he sees and believes. So that's just one man's opinion, and whoever becomes the OC will have that right to make that call.
Yeah, it's interesting, and we don't know what's going to happen. Like we said, all indications are that Ryan Olinsky's going to at least be back through spring practice. I mean, I think Luke is firmly in place. I mean, the wild card here maybe a little bit is Colin Hill. What are his plans in the future? You got Colton Gauthier, who's going to sign tomorrow.
Yep, put that out on Twitter today that he's signing.
Yeah, he'll sign tomorrow. A highly touted kid who will be in. I mean, the quarterback room looks like it's in good shape, but Perry, in today's day and age, I mean, it's different from even when you played. Your final year was 2016. It's changed in 4 years, man. I mean, people are leaving left and right. This pandemic has opened up the transfer portal. 6 quarterbacks alone went in there yesterday in the 20-plus names across college football that entered that. By the way, a bunch of names out of the SEC, including Shiloh Sanders. So, you could think you're set, and then you find out in May or April, right after spring practice, oh, this guy and this guy are leaving, and then you're going, wait a second, what do I do here? So it evolves every day.
Yeah, it really does. It's a changing world. But I will say that once Coach Beamer gets on campus full time and is done at Oklahoma, we won't see a whole lot of kids transferring out. I really believe that. I think he's going to come in from day one, create a culture where people want to be a part of the program. And you can't ask for more than that. Kids will play hard for that.
Final question here, Perry. Since Shane was hired a little bit over a week ago now, I guess it's 8 days he's officially been in place as the Gamecocks head football coach. What of some of your former teammates, the folks that you speak to who are tied in and very close to the program like you are, what has been the response over the last week or so?
Yeah, super positive, man. It's all been amazing. He's a guy that just loves the Gamecocks, man. I listened to his radio conference yesterday when he was on 107.5 up in Columbia, and he loves Carolina. He wants to be here. All the former players want him to be here. They want him to be here because of the relationship that he had. He looks, and Marcus said it best in his little excerpt that Gamecock football put out there. He looks at people, and he doesn't look at you as a 4-year project and boom, you're done. Thanks for your service kind of a deal. He looks at you and sees, a Perry Orth. He looks and sees Marcus Lattimore. He doesn't look at the 15 touchdowns you scored the previous season. And that's genuine and that's real, and people notice that. And you get a guy in there at South Carolina, and obviously this isn't our goal, but we've said it 1,000 times. You get a guy at South Carolina that's going to come in, build a great culture, win 7, 8, 9, 10 games every year. He'll be the coach at Carolina as long as he wants to. And you guys both know that. And if he does that, he'll be the coach here for the next 15, 20 years.
Hopefully it's 10 or more every year. Every year, Perry. He gets $1 million to win a national championship. I hope he wins 4 of them.
Yeah, I agree. I think our booster club would have no issues raising money for $4 million, for $1 million for a booster club.
No,
I don't think so.
And by the time he wins his 4th, he's not going to be getting $1 million per title. He's going to get like $5 million per title.
Yeah, and like $10 million a year or something like that. But we're just having fun with that stuff. Everybody, don't put it on the message boards. We're not stupid. Perry, on that note, we'll let you run, my friend. Thank you so much for today, as we always thank you every week, because we really appreciate all of your time. QB1athletics.com. How about insurance? Tell folks how to get a hold of you if they need some insurance. They might need some as the new year is about to set in place. We all need a new year around here.
Yeah, no doubt. No, just probably the easiest way, honestly, is social media, but imgsc.com. We're part of Brown & Brown. now, of fifth largest broker in the country, and we get to do some really good things as far as risk management, buying power with your insurance, kind of put the ball back in your court. So it's been great. Been doing it 3 years, and don't plan to stop.
There you go. Put the ball. Don't put it back in your end zone. That's a safety. You're going to want to,
especially late in the game when the line's 3.5 and it's a 3-point game.
Yeah, I think Darren lost money last night in the NFL game. Perry, sorry about that. My betting friend over here. So.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, on that note, guys, I'm out of here. Thanks again.
You got it. There you go. Perry Orth, former quarterback at South Carolina. 125 here on a Tuesday afternoon. Gene Sapakoff is coming up here in just a few minutes on the JB and Goldwater show.
Since we're talking money, and we've got Beamer, who now has the approval of the Board of Trustees, 2.75 per, $1 million extra if he wins a title. So he's having a good day. He's not having the day Giannis Antetokounmpo is having for the Bucks, because he has said that he will sign a 5-year, $228 million Supermax extension, the largest deal in NBA history. 5-year,
wow,
$228 million.
Yeah, Beamer's contract doesn't hold that. Holy moly. That is 5 years, $228 million?
Yes.
Wow. What was that, $44 million a year?
I don't even think I want to know.
Wow.
That's a lot of money.
41 million a year. So 41.5 million a year.
It's a lot of money.
That is unbelievable.
It's a lot of money.
Real quick from Auburn, they have hired a search firm and advisory group. Keep in mind, this is different from the process in which Ray Tanner and Bob Caslin took at South Carolina, where they hired a consultant. It has been announced officially from Auburn. They have identified a search firm and advisory group to assist with the search for the program's next head football coach. Director of Athletics Alan Green has announced Parker Executive Search Firm from Atlanta will assist the 8-member advisory group. This group is formed within the university, and then there's a search firm that will assist them. So they talk about leaks. Here they come, boy. Members of the advisory group, though, Alan Green, Director of Athletics at Auburn, Lieutenant General Ron Burgess, he's the Executive Vice President of Auburn University, Dr. Beverly Marshall, Auburn Faculty Athletic Representative, Tim Jackson, Executive Associate AD of Auburn Athletics, Quentin Riggins, Auburn football letterman, who's also a Board of Trustees member, Randy Campbell, football letterman, Michelle McKenna, Chief Information Officer, National of the NFL.
Okay.
And Bo Jackson.
Hey.
Do I need to give his resume, or y'all know who he is?
Baseball player.
Yeah, that's right.
Broke a bat over his head.
Greatest poster in the history of mankind, Bo Jackson. That's the advisory committee that will join with a search firm for the next football hire at Auburn. And we just discussed this morning a few names that we think are involved, like Kevin Steele, Hugh Freeze, maybe Lane Kiffin, maybe Mario Cristobal, maybe.
Yep.
How about Billy Napier? I don't know. But the search firm is certainly going to be involved. All right. I mentioned earlier that Indiana and Purdue won't play for the old Oaken Bucket for the first time since 1919. That was the Spanish flu. It's been 100 years, but they're not going to play this week. It was supposed to be played on Friday, actually. They're not going to play because of pandemic issues with both teams. So I came up with a little game for Darren to play, and it's called Name That Rivalry. Is that cool?
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
All right. So I've got 6 on here, but I'm only going to ask you 5.
All right.
I couldn't decide between the 6.
You may as well just ask the 6th, but okay.
I'm going to give you the name of the trophy, and you have to tell me which 2 teams play for it.
Good luck, me.
All right. I think you're going to get some of these.
I'll get some.
Who plays for Paul Bunyan's Axe?
Paul Bunyan's Axe is actually featured on this graphic. It is Wisconsin and Minnesota.
Ah, see? Ding, 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 ding. You have a little winner thing over there? By the way, Wisconsin 61-68. That is that series. They're 1 win ahead of Minnesota. They do have 8 ties.
Okay.
What is the Deep South's oldest rivalry?
This is one I'm supposed to know.
Okay, but now let me. There are 2 South's oldest rivalries. This is the Deep South's oldest rivalry.
I think the Citadel and Furman lay claim to one of them, but I don't think this is what you're asking me.
Nope.
So the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Oh, I'm going to go Arkansas-Auburn.
Well, you got one of those teams, right? Auburn and an SEC East team. That should give it away. They play every year.
And an SEC Georgia.
Georgia, yeah. Georgia is leading that series 61-56-8.
Yeah.
All right, 61-56-8. What is the big game?
Oh, the big game is Ohio State and Michigan. Oh, that's the game. That might be what you're talking about. So then the big game.
I was about to say. You gotta be careful with your wording.
Yeah, right.
The game is Ohio State and Michigan. The
And
big game.
Was the big game also canceled this year?
No.
So the big game was played.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech?
No. Other side of the country.
UCLA Southern Cal.
The band is on the field.
There you go.
Stanford
and Cal.
What are you, 1 and 2?
1 and 2.
Who plays for the Bronze Boot? This is also known as the Border War. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint on this. It's not any Power 5 teams. They're group of 5. Think Midwest, group of 5.
Think Midwest, group of 5.
The Bronze Boot.
The Bronze Boot. So I'm in the Cincinnati area, maybe.
Maybe a little bit further west. How about west?
Maybe a little bit further west.
How about let's just go west?
Just hook me up with the answer to this. I don't know.
Colorado State and Wyoming.
Great.
It's also known as the Border War. Colorado State 59, 48, and 5 there. What is known as the Holy War?
Oh, I know this. I need to know this.
Uh-huh.
Is it BYU and someone?
Well, I mean, I can't tell you, but you're warm.
I'm warm, aren't I?
Picking up steam.
Oh, how about BYU and Utah?
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. 2 and 3 for a 500 record here, and name that rivalry. It's fun, huh?
Uh-huh.
What is called? This game is known as the Rivalry.
I have absolutely no idea. I don't think I've ever heard the Rivalry.
The Rivalry. It's in the great state of Texas.
Oh, Texas A&M. No.
TCU and Baylor, both Christian institutions.
The Rivalry.
The Rivalry.
That's the first time I've heard that.
2 and 4. 33.
It's all right. Could have been a lot worse than 2 and 4.
Yeah, it's not bad though.
It could have been 0 and 6 right there.
Fun little game. Cool. Thanks to our friends at Patriots Point. They present the national anthem daily at 1 o'clock around here. PatriotsPoint.org. If you've got family coming to town, they're white glove certified. Don't be stuck in the house with your in-laws for days and days and days. Take them over to the Yorktown. You can leave them on one side of the ship. You go to the other, catch a breather for a second. PatriotsPoint.org. Also, HolyCityDrive-In.com for the weekend drive-in movie series for ticket show times and more. Maybe pick yourself up a cheesesteak on the way or something like that from DB's. DB'scheesesteaks.com. Number 1, by the way. I just had one for my birthday this past weekend. Time for a timeout. When we return, Gene Sapakoff with the Post and Courier on a bunch, including ACC Championship Saturday coming up this weekend right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, protected by McFadden Pest Control.
Is your old car really scary? Does it look dreadful or smell awful? Don't be frightened. There's never been a better time to trade in your spooky old car. Stokes Volkswagen just received a new shipment of the VW Atlas and VW Crossport. But here's what makes that even sweeter. Every new Atlas and Crossport is $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, every 2020 Volkswagen is available with 0% financing. That's right. You get both the huge discount and 0% financing. So if you want to play trick or treat at other dealerships, that's okay. Come see us at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or visit StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes Speed Up.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
Merry Christmas!
Keith Gunther here with McFadden Pest Control, wishing you all a happy holiday season. The only outdoors we want coming inside your home this time of year is the Christmas tree. McFadden Pest Control wants to make sure your family has a safe and enjoyable holiday season. And the best way we know how to do that is to make sure your homes are pest-free. We've been protecting the Low Country for over 40 years. Families trust us. We hope you will too. We're wishing you and your family a Merry Christmas from the entire McFadden Pest Control family. McFaddenPestControl.com.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
Marv!
Harry?
Why the hell did you take your shoes off?
Why the hell you dressed like a chicken?
The JB and Goldwater Show.
From a treehouse?
1:35, marching right towards Christmas. We're in the middle of Hanukkah for my dear friend.
We are.
Goldwater.
It'll be the 6th night tonight.
8 crazy nights.
8 wild and crazy nights.
That's what they say. We'll get Gene Sapakoff in here with the Post and Courier. By the way, happy Shane Beamer Day in the city of Charleston, Gene.
Yeah, I know. I saw that was city council resolution, the first Gamecock coach ever born in Charleston. But you know what, Jamie? Probably not the last.
No, yeah, definitely not.
Wait, we're already talking about the next Gamecocks coach. He's just hired a week ago.
Speculating, but I'm just saying at some point in history. You know.
That's right. I hope with the way that contracts go these days, Gene, I hope that next Gamecocks coach is mine. Because we'll be in a good shape forever.
Antetokounmpo range.
Oh.
He just signed a $230 million deal. If you missed that,
Gene.
Well, that goes a long way in Milwaukee.
It does. It does. You can hit up any brewery you want up there. Yeah, it's no big deal.
It goes a long way in like Dubai.
So, Gene, before we get the stuff that people want to actually listen to, I just played this fun new game with Darren on the heels of the news that Indiana and Purdue are not able to play this weekend. They can't play for the old Oaken Bucket, which happens every 100 years during a pandemic. The last time they weren't able to play during a pandemic, the Spanish flu. As a matter of fact, so I played a little game. I said, hey, look, let's name that rivalry. And one of those rivalries is Colorado State and Wyoming. And I bet you know what they play for, don't you, Gene?
Well, you have to say it this way: the coveted bronze boot.
Coveted.
There
you go. So I missed that one, Gene.
And let me remind you that the reason Mike Bobo was pretty much run out of Fort Collins is he continually failed to bring home the bronze boot.
He did. I know he did. I have a guy who listens to actually both of them now listen to our program a lot, but a gentleman that I met when I was over at ESPN here, Gene, was listening one day and hooked me up with his brother who was on the Wyoming staff, who was beating them every year and actually, knew who Colin Hill was and all that stuff. He was on that staff with Josh Allen. He's now at another school. But I went out there and toured the Wyoming facilities, actually went down and saw Colorado State's facilities as well.
Nice.
It is. Gene, I mean, obviously you went to Colorado State, so you know exactly what we're talking about. But for those who haven't been out in that area and gone, between like Fort Collins and Laramie, it is just one of the most beautiful parts of the country.
Yeah, it's real pretty. There are some parts that look like you're on the moon and antelope running around all over the place. But yeah, it's definitely interesting.
That's very true. Very, very true. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I mean, I love it out there. Just Colorado, Northwest. All of it.
Gene, what's the reservoir in Fort Collins? The big one, the big reservoir.
That would be Horsetooth Reservoir. Yeah, it's where college students like to go hang out, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I do know what you mean.
Gotcha.
I noticed that when we were out there touring the old Horsetooth one day. All right, Gene, to the ACC championship we go. We did have Heather Dinich on earlier today. Man, she's one of the best.
Wow, that's a great get. Yeah, no, she's outstanding.
Yeah.
Well, she wanted 1:30, and we said, Gene Sapakoff said 1:30, and she said, well, never mind. 12:30 will be fine.
Yeah, that's how that went down.
Yeah. So, but she was on talking about the college football playoff tonight. We're kind of going to squeeze these into one conversation here with the ACC championship game. But you're not anticipating anything moving in the top 5 tonight, right?
No, I don't think so. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens next week if even things all go as planned by the folks in Las Vegas. The thing I'm most intrigued by is, Ohio State, okay. But the other thing is, does Cincinnati get that bump if they win a championship and jump ahead of Texas A&M?
That's a great question. Well, Dabo has been outspoken with, a couple of things over the last couple of weeks. And you get the sense, right, that he's, well, if we happen to drop this thing against Notre Dame, he's really trying to make a case for Clemson to be a 2-loss team in the college football playoff. Is there a scenario in which they would have a case?
Wow, there is a lot to unpack there. But let me tell you, Dabo, I don't know if you saw it or read about it today, but opened his presser by reading from notes about all the accomplishments of this Clemson team. He never looks down and reads from notes. I mean, like, underline never. He went on for 13 minutes about all the individual and team accomplishments. And I'm telling you, it was sincere. It was good stuff. It was also setting up the case of a Clemson lobbying effort if they should lose to Notre Dame, especially if it's a close loss. And I think it's going to go something like, look, we were 6-0 after our 6 games and probably played a tougher schedule than Ohio State's going to play because Northwestern, what are they, number 19 or something? We beat Miami. They're a better team than Northwestern probably. And we're certainly a better team than Cincinnati. Texas A&M's win over Florida was significantly devalued by Florida losing to a very bad LSU team. So I think he is absolutely working to set that up. Just in case.
Well, that's a great point that we haven't brought that up yet this week, Darren, that A&M win over Florida. It's a great win. It's a great win, but they have a loss and they're not going to play for a conference championship. And so I haven't even thought about it that way. So what you're saying, this scenario that you're discussing here, Gene, is whether Clemson would deserve to hang tight with 2 losses. Or for that matter, of course, if Clemson wins the championship, it probably shouldn't change at all, right? Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Clemson.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that right now there is zero doubt that the best loss of the season is double overtime at Notre Dame for Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a tough place to play, no matter how many people are there, and it went into double overtime. Now, if they were to get pounded by Notre Dame, but the Texas A&M problem is they were not competitive with Alabama. I think they lost by 28, and that's just tough. I mean, they were hanging on that Florida game, and now that just doesn't look nearly as good. It's a nice win. It is. It's really a nice win, but it's not the first or second best win of the season, which it looked like earlier.
I want your take on this because the general feel, Gene, has been, at least around here, that if Clemson takes out Notre Dame, and you can say however it happens, field goal to buzzer or by 30, the general take, I think, has been Notre Dame is probably going to be out of this thing.
Ooh.
Heather Dinich doesn't think so, and she is about as close to this as anyone. I mean, her job is covering the playoff. She thinks Notre Dame is almost, she wouldn't go as far to say lock, but she said they're almost a lock right now. What do you think about Notre Dame?
I've been saying that for a long time, and I thought that was the consensus. I think they are a lock unless they lose by more than 4 touchdowns. And they're not going to, because Brian Kelly, if it started to get ugly, the one thing they can do is slow down a game and just get behind those big guys and run. And he will do that instead of try to gamble, because he talked about it this week in a couple different pressers, that, he's very aware of the situation, the win or lose situation there. And, Notre Dame losing to Clemson, they're going to just go to 3. I mean, because what other team would have a better resume than them? But here's the big thing. The College Football Playoff Committee is going to have a ridiculous choice because, again, just going by Las Vegas, okay, so Clemson's a 7-point favorite. They're going to win. Alabama's going to beat Florida. Notre Dame is 3, Clemson's 2. They're going to play again.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, Clemson 3. So what do? Do you say, we don't want that? The whole country doesn't. Nobody from Spokane to Coral Gables wants a third Clemson Notre Dame game. Let's push Notre Dame down to 4. They're going to be head and shoulders above anybody that gets to 4. A 6-0 Ohio State, Notre Dame will have a way better resume than them. Texas A&M, Cincinnati, anybody, they're going to have a better resume. So you could move them down to 4 to change the matchups. But who would just be unbelievably ticked off, irate about that is Alabama. You're going to make us play Notre Dame. We'd much rather play Ohio State or Texas A&M or Cincinnati.
That's a great. Oh man, that is an interesting point.
I was noticing that today when I was putting together one of the graphics. Is it was obviously all right. Clemson, Notre Dame, which it's been there now for I don't know how many consecutive weeks, but I didn't sit in my head like that. That it could very well be another Clemson. But I agree that the committee doesn't want that. Nobody wants that.
No. Is there any?
Yeah, I don't want that. I don't think the coordinators in Clemson, Notre Dame want that.
No.
Yeah, literally, nobody wants that except. I don't know who would possibly want it. Not even a married Notre Dame Clemson couple wants that.
No.
Gene Sapakoff on Twitter at Sapakoff. Yeah, it's a good point. Are there any of those out there?
Probably not.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. We'll see.
Who knows?
There's that one in Greenville, one couple in Greenville.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. So is there any, and look, the rankings are going to come out tonight. So this question really doesn't hold water until the rankings come out tonight, but I don't think we anticipate anything changing in the top 4. Is there any scenario you can envision here, Gene, that Ohio State beats Northwestern this weekend and is not in the college football playoff?
Doubtful. Again, the Texas A&M situation slightly devalued. I think Ohio State's in. I personally think it's right to put them in. I think empathy is a good word to have in the 2020 year here, and it's not their fault that they could only play that few games. On the other hand, if we were talking about Major League Baseball, the NBA, or the NFL, and you were going to put a team in that played half the amount of games that the other teams played, we probably wouldn't be having the conversation. But in this case, college football being so territorial, not run by any central organization, I'm fine with Ohio State getting it.
All right. Let's go to the Heisman Trophy situation here. So Gene is a Heisman voter. Heisman voting, Gene, opened on Monday and closes this coming Monday. That is correct?
Yes.
Okay. It's my hope, this is just me personally, that votes are not cast until we see games this weekend. But how many voters just do you think are like, they just know who they want to vote for and they've just already cast that vote without seeing Kyle Trask, Mac Jones, Devontae Smith all in games this weekend? Trevor Lawrence, I know that he's got an outside shot at this point in time, but could have a career day against Notre Dame. How many votes do you think have already been cast?
I don't know. I really don't.
Okay.
I do know that the voters in South Carolina take their responsibility very seriously, and I can't think of anyone that would vote before seeing all the games. I mean, there's no college football games after Saturday night. They give you till Monday afternoon to think about it. That's plenty of time. So unless you think you're going to the moon or something, I just think you should wait. And I'd be very upset if I heard about somebody that voted before Saturday's games, because a lot of weird things could go on there.
Do you think there is a path for Trevor Lawrence to jump up and surprise folks, I guess? I mean, maybe Alabama's two guys take votes from each other. Is there a way Lawrence can come from behind and win the Heisman?
Two thoughts there. Yes, a close, low-scoring game in the SEC championship and Trevor Lawrence just lights up Notre Dame. I think that is the last impression. Another thought. Is Trevor Lawrence the best quarterback in South Carolina? Grayson McCall has a higher quarterback rating. He has more touchdown passes. He has fewer interceptions. But listen to this. You're laughing, and I did too. He has 2 wins over top 20 teams. Trevor Lawrence has 1.
Ooh.
Yeah, Louisiana and BYU versus Miami. So if Trevor, I'm telling you, if Grayson McCall plays a good game against Louisiana, still ranked on Saturday, and Trevor Lawrence loses to Notre Dame, I don't think he's even the most deserving Heisman candidate in the state.
Wow.
Now, I don't think that's exactly what's going to happen, but it's not ridiculous.
How much did that shoe toss maybe cost Kyle Trask a potential Heisman Trophy?
That is a shame. That's the kind of thing that 20 years from now, somebody on, ESPN.com is going to go back and write this tremendous look at that, because that's possible. And it's a shame, because this second, if you just froze it, I'm going with Mac Jones. because you cannot play poorly in a game against, LSU's defense. I remember when the Gamecocks were playing at LSU, and their pass defense was ridiculous. I mean, Colin Hill was finding guys all over the place. That's not why South Carolina lost that game, is the failure to produce yards and so forth. So I know LSU's improved some as the season's gone on, but you just can't have a game like that late in the season if you're a Heisman candidate.
How about Devontae Smith? I mean, look, Mac Jones has been special this year, but I don't know that he's that special without the 83 catches and the 1,300 yards and the 15 touchdowns from Devontae Smith. Every time he gets his hands on it, he's gone, it seems like. What time? I mean, they've only played 9 games. Had they played 12 games and been able to play 8 of those in the league and 4 outside of the league, would he even maybe be the Heisman leader right now? When's the last time we saw a wide receiver doing what he's doing in college football?
Yeah, I mean, he's Tim Brown type performances, except that, he's been really dynamic, and you just wonder where the Tide and Mac Jones and Steve Sarkisian and lots of people would be without him.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But real quick on the Heisman voting deadlines and things like that, what is it in a normal year? When does your vote have to be cast by a normal year as it falls in the college football calendar?
It's always the Monday after the conference championship games.
Okay. All right. So same thing this year, just backed up by a couple weeks.
Yes.
Okay. That's where I was confused. I thought it was before the conference championship games. So that's my bad.
No, it's always the Monday afternoon after the conference championship games. I think it's like Monday at 5.
Okay.
Do you agree with that date, Gene?
Yeah, because here's the Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson argument. When Deshaun won the national championship, Lamar Jackson actually faded at the end, and then I'm pretty sure had a pretty bad bowl game. It might have been against LSU, but anyway, yeah, because it's just, you can't, not every player gets a chance to be on the college football playoff stage. You're talking about 130 FBS teams and only 4 get the chance to shine on a stage like that. And I know there's other bowl games, but yeah, I think baseball always is where I look, because the baseball writers are just such a strong, authoritative group of journalists and judges and so forth. And they don't go, you don't use the playoffs to judge MVP and Cy Young Award in baseball. So yeah, I think it's fair.
Okay. Gene Sapakoff on Twitter at Sapakoff. All right. So this coming Monday, the first ever official bowl game, not a Senior Bowl or something like that, will be played within our borders here in the Palmetto State, up in Conway at Brooks Stadium. The Myrtle Beach Bowl. App State going to make the trip back south this time of year. Probably a good time to be in Conway as opposed to Boone. And they'll face North Texas. Are you going up to this game? You're going to be going up to cover this game?
I don't think so. And one of the reasons is the postandcourier.com is a wonderful Myrtle Beach bureau with 3 people in it now, and they're going to be all over that. And I really just don't want to get in their way in a situation in which credentials will be very limited, as credentials are to all sporting events right now.
That's a great point. Is this a gateway to another bowl game? Obviously, at a few years back, Charleston was trying to bring a bowl game down here to Johnson Haygood Stadium. Could South Carolina, the state in general, be looking to try to add another bowl game?
Possibly. I just think this year won't be a good year to judge this on, and it's just going to be hard, But I think I've followed the Myrtle Beach people and that committee and how they've put this thing together, and they've been really doing a heck of a job. So I'm anxious to see how it comes off and just how it kind of looks on TV. And maybe then for 2021, they can really get behind it with a lot of fan support in the stands.
How different was what went on at Myrtle Beach behind the scenes for their bold push than what happened here in Charleston? Why'd they succeed?
I'm going to say that the people in Myrtle Beach learned a lot from the trial and error stuff here in Charleston, because the people in Charleston did a really good job of pushing that Medal of Honor Bowl and then trying to get a regular bowl, and then just running into a lot of red tape put in front of them by the college football powers that be and television people. But they were just, I just thought it was tremendous the way the Medal of Honor Bowl and all that other stuff was coming together.
I liked it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
What do you remember?
Yeah, And I mean, like, I remember standing in the Citadel, outside the Citadel locker room, interviewing Demir Bird. You know, he played for the Gamecocks, didn't think he was going to get drafted. I'm going to play in this Medal of Honor Bowl and see if I can get a look. And man, the guy's going to play in the NFL for like 12 years, it looks like.
Yep. It was Manziel who was also in that game, right?
No, it wasn't Manziel, but there were some other really good players that have gone on to, play in the NFL. It was absolutely the success they thought it would be.
What was it? Do you remember some of that red tape that was provided by the NCAA? Was it how many they could seat down at Johnson-Hagan and things like that?
I forgot exactly the details, but it had something to do with that. And would the Citadel expand the stadium just for the bowl game? It really couldn't pull it off. You're talking about dealing with the Citadel, the city of Charleston, ESPN, conference tie-in, something like that is really difficult to pull together. It's not just a matter of, we have a really cool place everybody wants to come and we have a stadium, so, wow, I just think they were close. At one point, it really looked like they had it, and then, maybe they will get it again.
Well, I hope they do. I mean, obviously, everybody comes to Charleston anyways. I know how that, we all know that. Just go out there and ride around traffic for a little while. You can figure it out quickly. It's not hard to sell this town because it's the number one city in the world, apparently, again. I don't know. All right, Gene, Shane's contract is official today. Probably not really much news there. Still kind of wait and see on whom he's going to hire over the next few weeks, whatever it is, to fill out that staff. The one thing, though, and we'll leave it on this, that I found interesting, Kyle Krantz, Travaris Robinson actually going to come back and help coach them through a bowl game. They're still under contract at South Carolina, so they're gonna come help do this and guide them to wherever they go if they're able to go because of COVID and things like that. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. It's an interesting scenario ongoing in Columbia. Is this good for the program?
Yeah, I think that's okay. I just don't think that's that big of a deal under the big picture circumstances of this crazy 2020 COVID college football season. Because again, like we were talking about with the Heisman vote, everything's backed up. And so you're really getting close to these bowl games, but also you've got signing day tomorrow. And so just the crammed nature of just everything here before January 1st is the kind of what's going to be going on in just a week at South Carolina. A whole bunch of new players, a whole bunch of new coaches. But right now, you just have to have some transitional help.
Yeah, good. Great point. Yeah.
I'm going to circle back to this Medal of Honor thing because I've been in Google world here while I've been quiet. It looks like the first game, Johnny Manziel and Marcus Mariota were the two quarterbacks that started.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I don't remember that. But and I don't know how I forgot that, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't remember that either.
Yeah.
I'm with Sapakoff on this one. I don't remember.
Yeah.
They all worked out for those guys.
I'm going to double check it, but I'm fairly certain.
What's Manziel in these days? Is he on Vanity Fair or something?
He said he might be trying to make a comeback. Actually.
Oh, okay. All right. Gene, what are we looking for in the paper this week?
All kinds of stuff about this Clemson Notre Dame ACC championship game from Josh Needleman and myself, David Cloninger and Andy Shane on Shane Bieber and Ray Tanner and the contracts. Jeff Hartzell doing a lot of stuff on College of Charleston, Citadel basketball. And postandcourier.com, your best deal in sports journalism.
That's the truth right there. There's
very
no
much
question.
so.
Gene, thank you so much as always, my friend. On Twitter at Sapakoff. He's a 7-time South Carolina Sports Writer of the Year. We're lucky to have him around here on Tuesdays. Thanks, bud. Have a great week.
Thank you, guys.
There you go, Gene Sapakoff. All right, what is today on the Handy Dandy National Day calendar, as we do every day here on the JB and Goldwater Show? By the way, we were first to do this. It is National Bill of Rights Day.
Good. That's an important thing.
Yeah, some people in this country forget that sometimes, but it is that is in place. It is National Cat Herders Day.
I don't like cats. I'm certainly not going to hurt them.
No. It's National Wear Your Pearls Day. Do you have a set of pearls you like to wear?
No.
And finally, it is National Cupcake Day.
There you go. We can all have a cupcake.
Everybody loves cupcakes, man. Everybody loves cupcakes. We love Heather Dinich, Perry Orth, and Gene Sapakoff. They joined us today on our program. By the way, according to MLBTradeRumors.com, the Cubs and the Phillies interested in Jackie Bradley Jr.
All right.
Former Carolina star and Red Sox fan favorite. Keep an eye on that as we move forward as well. Thanks to Darren. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. And we hope that you have a terrific Tuesday afternoon. We're back tomorrow. Signing day. J.C. Sherbert will be all over the signing day stuff. We hope you're with us between 12 and 2 o'clock. For Darren, I'm Jamie. You've been listening and watching the JV and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.